Have you ever wondered why the more interest you show in him, the more he pulls away? Why your affectionate messages seem to have the opposite effect of what you desire? I'm going to tell you something that will shock you. 97% of women make the same fatal mistake when they like a man. They believe that showing interest and care will win him over. But the truth is devastating. Carl Jung, the revolutionary psychiatrist who deciphered the deepest mysteries of the male psyche, discovered something that most women will never know. He revealed that there's an invisible force in the feminine unconscious that completely sabotages our ability to attract and keep a man interested. And no, it's not about playing hard to get or childish games. It's something much deeper and more powerful. Jung called it the animus, and once you understand how this masculine energy within you is working against you, everything will change. Literally, everything. Because here's the brutal truth nobody tells you. Every time you pick up your phone to text him, you're not being romantic. You're being repellent. Every desperate message, every attempt to maintain contact, every "hi, how are you?" is sending a powerful signal to his unconscious that screams, "Run!" But why does this happen? Why do men flee from women who show genuine interest? Jung discovered that there's an ancient psychological mechanism that functions as a feminine energy detector. When a woman is operating from her unintegrated animus, this imbalanced inner masculine energy, she unconsciously competes with the man instead of complementing him. This is why all those techniques you've learned are wrong. Completely wrong. Be yourself wrong. If you don't even know who you truly are. Show you care wrong. This demonstrates neediness, not love. Be direct about your feelings wrong. This inverts the natural polarity of attraction. The relationship industry has sold you a lie. Dating coaches have taught you masculine strategies to win men over. But men don't want a female version of themselves. They want something they can't be. Jung spent decades studying why some women have men fighting for their attention, while others chase emotional crumbs. And he discovered the secret. There's a subtle shift, a single change in perspective rooted in Jungian psychology that completely upends the dynamic. When you cease writing to him and instead operate from this place, you activate something in the masculine unconscious that is utterly irresistible. It's not manipulation. It's not a psychological game. It's pure behavioral science. It's about awakening your authentic feminine energy, that which Jung termed the man's anima. When you operate from this energy, men cannot stay away. They sense a lack, a void that only you can fill. But here's the rub, you have a finite window of opportunity. Every day you spend texting, calling, trying to maintain contact, you are sealing that relationship's fate. You are programming his subconscious to perceive you as too available, too easy, too safe. And men do not value what is easy. Jung proved this through decades of research. So, if you want him to stop ignoring you, stop leaving you on read, stop treating you as an option, you need to grasp what I am about to reveal in the coming minutes. Because once you discover how to activate your true Jungian feminine essence, you will never have to chase a man in your life again. In fact, you will discover something even more potent: how to have quality men gravitate toward you. Naturally, inevitably, as if by fate. Are you ready to uncover what Carl Jung knew about attraction that has revolutionized the lives of thousands of women worldwide? Now, if you have truly grasped what I've just unveiled about the animus and are poised to manifest this Jungian transformation in your life, I require you to undertake a very specific action right now. In the comments below, write just one word: animus. But do not write it perfunctorily. This is no ordinary comment. Carl Jung discovered that when we articulate our intention for change through the written word, something potent transpires within our subconscious. The mere act of typing animus is akin to igniting an inner flame. It is the nascent step toward awakening that dormant masculine energy within you and integrating it healthily. When you write animus, you are accomplishing three things simultaneously. Firstly, you are signaling to your subconscious that you are prepared to cease projecting your inner power onto man and reclaim it for yourself. Secondly, you are transmitting an energetic signal to the universe that you will no longer operate from a place of lack, but rather from one of wholeness. Thirdly, you are aligning yourself with a clandestine cohort of women who have unearthed this ancient wisdom and are actively employing Jungian psychology to revolutionize their relationships. Behold some of the testimonials from women who wrote Animus and applied these concepts. I stopped writing to him 3 days ago. Today, he showed up at my doorstep with flowers. Ever since integrating my Animus, I have 3 quality men vying for my attention. I never imagined that ceasing the pursuit would be so empowering. He's utterly fixated on me. However, a caveat: this knowledge is not for every woman. It is exclusively for those genuinely committed to undertaking profound inner work and relinquishing infantile relational patterns. If you are one of these courageous women, type Animus in the comments now. And as you type this word, feel the power it embodies. Sense the stirrings within you. This is your authentic feminine power being activated. But be warned, once you write Animus and commence applying what I will impart, there is no turning back. You will never again settle for emotional crumbs from any man. You will cease demeaning yourself by pursuing those who do not value you. You will operate from such a potent and magnetic locus that quality men will contend for your attention. So, last chance, if you want to be a part of this transformation, if you want to discover how to never write for him again and still have him eating out of the palm of your hand, type Animus in the comments. And if you truly want to accelerate this process, also type which city you're from. Jung used to say that when women connect energetically around the world with the same intention, transformation happens exponentially. So, Animus plus your city in the comments. Now, I want to see how many women here are truly ready for this inner revolution. I want to see how many have the courage to abandon old patterns and embrace their true feminine power. I will await your comments to know if I should continue revealing these Jungian secrets or if you are not yet prepared for this truth. I shall commence with a revelation that will irrevocably alter your perception of relationships. After decades meticulously dissecting the human psyche, Carl Jung unearthed a truth that revolutionized our understanding of attraction. Within every man's mind resides an idealized feminine image, dictating whom he will genuinely fall for versus whom he will merely consort with out of expediency. Jung termed this archetype the anima, the quintessential feminine essence dwelling within the male unconscious. And here lies the crux of the matter. Every instance you exhibit needy behavior toward a man, you are, in effect, dismantling your prospects of occupying that hallowed space in his mind. Allow me to elucidate this in a manner you shall never forget. Envision, if you will, a gilded throne nestled within the core of every man's being, a seat reserved for his inner queen. This queen does not beseech attention, nor does she pursue. She's not excessively available. She possesses inherent power, a life of her own, a distinct purpose. She's coveted precisely because she is whole. Now, each time you reach for your phone to pen "Hi, how are you?" Each time anxiety grips you awaiting a reply, each time you contort your life around his availability, you are furnishing evidence that you are unworthy of that throne. You are postulating yourself for the role of a subject, not a sovereign. And the truly devastating aspect: Jung discovered that men only romantically value women whom they perceive they have conquered. When you are perpetually accessible, invariably interested, and constantly in pursuit, you usurp his opportunity to win you over. You transform into a prize handed freely, not a treasure he had to earn. Yet, a phenomenon even more profound is unfolding within the male psyche, one that eludes many women. Jung identified that when a woman demonstrates a need for a man to find happiness, it triggers what he termed the suffocating responsibility complex in his mind. The man unconsciously feels compelled to shoulder the burden of her felicity, an utterly repellent prospect to the masculine disposition. Why does he invariably retreat when your interest becomes overly pronounced? Because his unconscious is safeguarding the anima archetype. He is subconsciously assessing whether you are indeed the formidable woman capable of inhabiting that unique pedestal, or merely another drain on his masculine energy. Jung spent years studying this phenomenon and discovered something revolutionary. Men fall head over heels for women who reflect back to them their own completeness. When you are incomplete without him, you become a mirror of his lack, not his abundance. and men flee from their own reflected lack. But when you are genuinely whole, when you possess a rich life, a clear purpose, your own energy, you become a mirror of his most potent version. You represent everything he admires but perhaps hasn't yet cultivated: independence, mystery, emotional self-sufficiency. And here's where the Jungian magic unfolds. When you cease pursuing a man and begin living your own life with verve, something awakens in his psyche. Jung termed this the anima activation. Suddenly, that image of the perfect woman residing in his unconscious begins to whisper, "That's her. She's different. This one you cannot let slip away." But this isn't about feigning indifference or playing psychological games. Jung discovered something far more profound. There's a colossal energetic disparity between a woman who is pretending to have an interesting life to manipulate a man, and a woman who has genuinely discovered her own power and is living by it. The former is detected by the male unconscious radar as inauthentic, which is even worse than being needy. The latter awakens something primal and powerful within the masculine psyche, the instinct to conquer something truly valuable. Jung explained that men have an archetypal need to feel like heroes in their own romantic narrative. When you are perpetually available, you strip him of the opportunity to be a hero. When you become scarce and precious, you return to him the possibility of winning something genuinely worthwhile. And do you know what transpires when a man feels he has conquered a truly remarkable woman? Jung found this activates the same pleasure and pride centers in the male brain that our ancestors felt upon a successful hunt. You become associated not just with pleasure, but with his sense of competence and personal worth. Now you're beginning to grasp why ceasing correspondence with him is merely the initial stride in a far deeper transformation. It's not about manipulation, it's about awakening your own inner anima, your most potent feminine essence, the one that naturally occupies the throne of the masculine mind because it deserves to be there. Now that you grasp the mechanics of the anima within the male psyche, I must unveil something even more groundbreaking. You too possess an inner masculine energy that, when properly integrated, transforms you into the woman of quality men find utterly irresistible. Jung discovered that truly powerful women are not merely feminine, they have mastered both their feminine essence and their inner masculine energy. They are whole unto themselves. And it is this wholeness that cultivates an irresistible magnetism. But here is where most women falter. They attempt to compete with men by wielding raw masculine energy, being cold, detached, controlling. This backfires spectacularly, as it repels his natural masculine energy. Jung termed this defensive masculinization. It's poorly integrated masculine energy. True integration of your inner animus is entirely different. It's when you cultivate inner strength, a clear purpose, and emotional independence, yet retain your feminine essence intact. You become a woman who can make powerful decisions, architect her own life, pursue ambitious goals, but still remain receptive, intuitive, and magnetic. And do you know what is devastating to the male psyche? Encountering a woman who clearly does not need him, but chooses to include him in her life. Jung explained this awakens within the man what he called the chosen one complex, the profound sense of being sufficiently exceptional to be selected by someone with other viable options. But how do you practically make this transition? How do you cease operating from a place of lack without becoming cold or calculating? Jung developed what he termed the feminine individuation process, 3 specific phases that transmute a woman operating from lack into a natural magnetic force. And when you master this, it's not just him who will be seeking you out, you will begin to naturally attract quality men because your energy will be operating on an entirely different frequency. The first phase Jung christened the death of the dependent maiden. It sounds dramatic, but that is precisely what is required. The version of you who derives her identity and happiness from men must symbolically perish for the powerful woman to be born. During this phase, you will experience brutal internal resistance. Your ego will shriek, concoct imaginary emergencies, invent 1,000 reasons why you must reach out to him. Jung recognized this would occur, terming it the agonizing complex's struggle. The dependent portion of you is quite literally fighting for its very survival. And do you know what transpires in his psyche during this phase? First, There is relief, the burden of managing someone else's emotions vanishes. This is followed by what Jung described as the echo of absence. A peculiar void emerges where his energy once resided, even if that energy was overwhelming. Jung made a remarkable discovery. Men only begin to miss a woman when she ceases to be emotionally available to them. While you were perpetually present, concerned, and invested, you were akin to the very air he breathed, indispensable, yet unperceived. When you withdraw, he experiences the absence as if the oxygen had been evacuated from his environment. The second phase is where genuine metamorphosis takes place. Jung designated it the awakening of the integrated animus. This is the juncture at which you cease seeking masculine energy externally and cultivate your own intrinsic masculine power. You become adept at making decisive choices, establishing clear objectives, and generating abundance in your life, all without compromising your inherent femininity. And here lies the revolutionary aspect. By developing this balanced inner masculine energy, you no longer require men to act as your psychological father. You cease to seek protection, guidance, or validation from them. You evolve into a woman who engages with men as a formidable equal, rather than a needy daughter. Jung observed that when this transformation occurs, the dynamic shifts dramatically. The man ceases to view you as an obligation and begins to perceive you as a prize. For you now embody all that he admires: independence, purpose, strength, all presented in an irresistibly feminine package. However, there is a Jungian paradox at play here that you must comprehend. The more you cultivate your inner completeness, the more feminine you become in his eyes. Why? Because you are no longer competing with him or endeavoring to prove anything. You are simply existing as a force of nature, potent yet receptive, autonomous yet still capable of surrender by choice. And do you know what he truly feels when you reach this echelon? Though he will never admit it, he feels he has finally encountered a woman who matches his stature, someone who will not diminish him through neediness, but who will complement him with her own inherent power. Jung termed this archetypal recognition. It's when his anima finally acknowledges its queen. The third phase is the most perilous and potent: conscious magnetic radiance. This is when you are not merely powerful, but consciously know how to wield that power magnetically. You understand your complete and balanced energy is a natural magnet for quality men, and you learn to effortlessly radiate it. In this phase, you don't dismiss men out of strategy. You are genuinely so engrossed in your own rich life that they are merely one part of your expansive world. And paradoxically, this makes them desperate to occupy more space within it. Jung explained that men are wired to value what is scarce and to challenge what is easy. When you naturally become scarce, not through game playing, but by genuinely being occupied with being incredible, you automatically become more valuable in his perception. The time has now come to transition from theory to genuine transformation. I will provide you with the precise protocol that Jung developed, refined over decades of assisting women in evolving from needy to magnetic. However, heed this warning: this is not a superficial quick fix. It is a profound process that will stir layers of your psyche you may not even be aware of. Jung discovered that genuine transformation from emotional dependence to authentic magnetism occurs in natural 21-day cycles, not by chance, but because this is the requisite duration to reprogram deep-seated neurological patterns that have been years in the making. And each cycle possesses its own unique energy and challenges. During the initial 21 days, you will undergo what Jung termed the symbolic death of dependence. It sounds dramatic, but that is precisely what transpires. The version of you that derives identity and happiness from men must perish for the empowered woman to be born. Throughout this period, you will undertake an action that may appear simple, yet is, in reality, revolutionary. You will live as if he ceased to exist. Do not misunderstand me. This is not about feigning his demise or attempting to forget him through denial. It is about a conscious redirection of energy. All the mental and emotional energy you previously expended on him, on strategizing how to win him over, on interpreting his signals, this energy will now be invested in yourself. Every time the urge to text him arises, you will instead engage in one of the actions Jung referred to as self-investment, something that cultivates your mind, body, or soul. Jung was acutely aware that your ego would resist this vehemently. You will experience physical anxiety when you abstain from checking him on social media. You will fabricate emergencies to justify making contact. Your mind will conjure catastrophic scenarios about him forgetting you forever. This is normal. It is your dependent psyche in its death throes, struggling for survival. And do you know what is occurring in his mind during this phase? Jung observed a fascinating pattern in the initial days. Relief. The pressure of having to manage someone's emotions dissipates. Confusion then sets in. Why has she stopped pursuing me? And then something deeper awakens, the unconscious realization that he may have lost something valuable. But here lies the secret that differentiates this from superficial mind games. You are not merely pretending to be occupied to impress him. You are genuinely evolving into a more compelling version of yourself. From day 22 to 42, Jung referred to this as the gestation of a new identity. It's when you cease defining yourself through relationships and commence constructing an identity rooted in personal achievements, growth, and purpose. During this period, you will undertake actions that may initially seem daunting. You will begin making significant life decisions based on your own desires, rather than on what you believe will impress men or a specific individual. You'll opt for attire that makes you feel empowered, not merely alluring to him. You'll pursue goals that ignite your passion, not those that would elicit his approval. You'll cultivate friendships and experiences that nourish your spirit, rather than those that would yield compelling anecdotes for him. Jung discovered something astonishing. When a woman genuinely starts living for herself, she develops what he termed an aura of authenticity. This energy is magnetic not only to the specific men she initially sought to win over, but to men of quality in general. It's fascinating to observe the shift in male behavior during this phase. Jung noted that this is typically when he breaks his silence. Something within his subconscious perceives that you are no longer the same person. The energy you emanate has undergone a complete transformation. You are no longer emotionally available in the same manner, and this awakens within him what Jung termed the instinct of reclamation. However, herein lies the critical juncture, when he begins to seek you out, and you must not fall prey to reverting to old patterns. Jung cautioned that this is the most perilous stage, as the feminine ego yearns to celebrate the return of male attention by regressing into neediness and availability. It's as if your mind declares, "It worked. Now I can revert to my former self." Yet, if you succumb to this temptation, you not only forfeit all your progress but become even less appealing than before. He now knows you are capable of independence, rendering your conscious choice of dependence a palpable weakness. From day 43 to 63 unfolds what Jung considered the most crucial phase: permanent magnetic integration. This is where you solidify your new identity to the extent that it becomes your inherent nature, not merely an act. Women who failed to complete this phase often reverted to their old patterns once they secured the attention they desired. Conversely, those who mastered this phase became permanently magnetic. During this final period, you will practice what Jung termed conscious relating. If he reappears, which he likely will, you will engage with him from your new integrated energy. This entails responding when you choose to respond, not impulsively, accepting invitations that genuinely pique your interest, rather than indiscriminately accepting them simply because they originate from him. Sharing your life with him as a gift, not as a compulsion. Jung emphasized that this phase imparts something revolutionary: how to love without losing oneself, how to surrender without diminishing oneself, how to be receptive without being passive. It is the distinction between a woman who dates out of neediness and one who dates from conscious choice. And do you know what transpires in the male psyche when you master this? He finally feels he has conquered something tangible. Not a desperate woman who accepts anything, but a woman of substance who has chosen to be with him. Jung discovered that this activates pleasure centers in the male brain associated with genuine conquest and personal pride. However, there is a twist that Jung consistently cautioned his female patients about. Upon completing this process, you may realize you no longer desire him. The woman who embarked on this journey, driven by need and fixated on a particular man, may emerge so empowered and integrated that her romantic standards elevate entirely. And do you know why this occurs? Because you have proven to yourself that you can be content and whole independently. When you require no one to feel complete, you only welcome individuals who genuinely enhance your life rather than merely filling a void. And this, perhaps, is the most profound Jungian irony. When you cease needing a specific person, you become utterly irresistible to high-caliber individuals. We have arrived at the most delicate and crucial juncture of this entire Jungian transformation. Jung discovered that many women could navigate the initial phases but faltered in recognizing when they had truly mastered the process and consequently sabotaged their own success. Worse still, some managed to fully ignite male interest but lacked the acumen to sustain that power without reverting to destructive old patterns. I will teach you to discern the internal and external indicators that you have genuinely transformed, and more importantly, how to perpetually safeguard this evolved version of yourself. Even when all your emotional programming attempts to cajole you back into the familiar, the first sign of having mastered your Jungian integration is something Jung termed the inversion of anxiety. Previously, you would feel anxious when he delayed responding to your messages. Now, you experience anxiety when you delay engaging with the important aspects of your life. Your emotional energy has been entirely reoriented toward your own projects, growth, and accomplishments. He has become an interesting facet of your existence, not the fulcrum around which everything revolves. When this transpires authentically, not as a mere performance, you will observe a profound alteration in your relationship with your mobile device. You might see a message from him and not feel that urgent butterflies in the stomach sensation compelling an immediate reply. You respond when you have something genuine to convey, not out of conditioned reflex. Jung understood this to be a potent indicator because our relationship with communication fundamentally reveals our relationship with personal power. Another fascinating sign is what Jung observed and labeled the masculine abundance phenomenon. Truly individuated women naturally begin to attract multiple quality men without actively seeking them. It's not that you are overtly flirting or self-promoting, they simply begin to materialize in your life. Why? Because your balanced energy acts as an archetypal beacon. You are radiating the frequency of the complete woman, and this is magnetic to men who are also at a comparable stage of development. But here is where it becomes intriguing and perilous. When he eventually returns, and Jung noted they almost invariably do, he does not return in the same fashion. There is a complete inversion of the dynamic. Now, he engages in all the behaviors you previously exhibited, sending double messages, lingering online awaiting your response, fabricating pretexts to converse with you. Jung posited that when the energy within a relationship undergoes a reversal, behaviors inevitably follow suit. You'll observe him beginning to pose questions that signify the full awakening of his anima. Are you seeing anyone? Why have you changed so drastically? What's happened to you? These inquiries transcend mere superficial curiosity. They are indicative that his unconscious has recognized you as the archetypal dream woman. The image that had eternally resided within the hallowed sanctuary of his psyche has, at long last, found a tangible counterpart in the corporeal realm. Jung discovered something profoundly captivating regarding masculine behavior at this juncture. Men only develop a genuine apprehension of losing a woman when she demonstrably, through consistent actions, cultivates a life of richness independent of him. If he has begun to articulate a fear of losing you, if he is exerting efforts previously unseen in his pursuit of you, it is because he has, for the first time, truly acknowledged your intrinsic value. However, here lies the mortal peril about which Jung cautioned all his female patients, the snare of reverting to the familiar. When he finally bestows upon you the entirety of the attention you have long craved, when he genuinely endeavors to win you over, a monumental temptation arises to celebrate by regressing to the old patterns of complete availability and emotional destitution. Why does this transpire? Because your subconscious mind conflates the success of the technique with his return, rather than with your personal metamorphosis. Consequently, it yearns to commemorate by reverting to your former self. Jung understood this to be the most insidious phase of the entire process, as the feminine ego misinterprets his renewed attention as an implicit endorsement to lower its defenses. Should you succumb to this enticement at this critical juncture, you not only forfeit all accrued progress but also render yourself demonstrably less alluring than you were initially. Why? Because he is now cognizant of your capacity for independence and potency. If you voluntarily devolve into neediness, he will perceive this not as genuine affection or innocent insecurity, but as a conscious capitulation to weakness. To circumvent this relapse, Jung formulated what he termed the principle of permanent maintenance. The cardinal rule dictates: never relinquish the rich life you have meticulously constructed for any man, nor for the sake of any man. The life you have cultivated during the process of individuation must remain your paramount concern, even within a committed relationship. This, it must be underscored, does not necessitate adopting a demeanor of coldness or aloofness. Jung espoused the principle of complementarity. Healthy relationships are between two whole individuals who mutually choose each other, not between two halves seeking completeness. You must remain a complete person, allowing him to be a valuable addition to your life, not the bedrock upon which it is built. Jung advocated what he termed the 80-20 maintenance technique. Even in a committed relationship, keep 80% of your energy focused on your own life, growth, and projects, and a mere 20% on him and the relationship. This may seem incongruous to women conditioned to make the relationship their number one priority, but Jung posited that this ratio keeps the magnetic dynamic alive indefinitely. Why does this work? Because it preserves what he most values in you: your independence, your mystery, your personal power. The moment you make him the epicenter of your life again, you obliterate the very qualities that ignited his obsession in the first place. And what if he doesn't return? Jung had a perfect rejoinder to this possibility. If a specific man fails to recognize and cherish a woman who has fully individuated, it merely proves he was not on her evolutionary plane. And here's the liberating truth Jung uncovered: a woman who has mastered this process never remains alone for long, because she has become a natural magnet for quality men who are ready for mature, healthy partnerships. The objective was never to win him back, though that almost invariably occurs. The objective was to transform you into the most potent and magnetic version of yourself. If he returns and is worthy of the new you, excellent. If he doesn't, or if he does and falls short, you now possess the wherewithal and energy to attract someone infinitely better. Jung understood something few women grasp: when you completely master your own inner masculine and feminine energies, you become utterly independent of any specific man for your sense of wholeness. You partner by conscious choice, not by emotional exigency. And that is the most potent freedom there is: loving someone not because you need to, but because you genuinely want to. This is the distinction between an ordinary woman and one who has grasped the Jungian secrets of feminine magnetism. And once you prove to yourself that you can be whole on your own, no man, not even the dream man, will have the power to diminish you again. This is the true inner revolution that Carl Jung offered women: the freedom to love without needing, to desire without depending, to surrender completely without ever losing oneself. From this moment forward, you will never be the same.